Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Wildness and Wellbeing. Just a quick heads up, in this episode we'll be talking about self-harm. Hello and welcome to another episode of Wildness and Wellbeing. Today I'm going to be with Donna Edwards, who is a yoga teacher who looks to serve others struggling with mental health. She's an advocate for dance and movement, also embracing the outdoors and nature. Hey Donna, how's it going?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I am good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm awesome, thank you. So, reading your bio, it says that your passion for yoga came from an enjoyment for movement and a call to support your mental health. I guess, where did your journey first begin?
Yes, so my journey began before I started teaching yoga. I was training as a dancer. When I was younger, that was sort of my goal in life, what I really wanted to do as a career, and it was my passion. And then just started to struggle mentally within that industry that I was training to be a part of. So going through dance training, it's a really physical, mentally demanding process, and after a while it just really started to beat me down, and I just started to struggle more with my mental health, and it got to the point where I fell into really negative patterns of self-harm and just really destructive behaviour for a long time, from around about the age of 17 up until adulthood really. So I had to make the decision to come away from this career, this passion that I thought I'd wanted for so long, and to take control of my mental health and well-being. I had to walk away from that dream and find another, and it ended up being yoga.
Oh, wow. So I guess, where did you start when it came to yoga?
So obviously I'd just completely had to redirect my life. So I'd stopped dancing and I was in a really bad place. I was really sort of trapped in the addictive behavior and patterns of self-harm, and obviously that really affects your mindset after a while, and you have a lot of sort of like self-hate and negativity. So I was sort of searching and seeking for something to just help me fall back in love with myself and life again. So I just ended up going to a yoga class just randomly, because training as a dancer, I'd always grown up with movement as part of my life. And so I originally started doing yoga just as a movement practice, but not really understanding the mental benefits that it would have in the long run, which is obviously where it becomes a life-changing practice. So that was really the thing that changed it for me, just committing to my yoga practice. I was literally, when I first started going, I was going to yoga classes like 2 or 3 times a day. I'd just go do like back-to-back sessions, or I'd go in the morning, then I'd drive back in the evening and go again, just because when I started going into these spaces, I felt calm, I felt relaxed, and I was just like, okay, let's start to like just make my way back to me again. So it was super beneficial, and once I practiced more and I really understood what the mental benefits of yoga did for me, it just reminded me how important it is to look after ourselves first and foremost. It's so important.
So when do you think everything with yoga kind of clicked for you? Was it something in particular that made you think, yeah, this is definitely for me?
Yeah, so it was when I started to notice not just the physical change in myself, but sort of the change in my mentality, as it just got me back onto the right track of really caring for myself and learning how to process and deal with my emotions that beforehand I had dealt with the wrong way through sort of this self-harm sort of pattern. And then it just taught me new skills. Like, it felt like I had now this toolkit of things that when bad things happened in my life, or that I was feeling mentally unwell, that I had better tools to deal with it now. So having a meditation practice, or just being able to take a deep breath when you're feeling really anxious, like just these little things, and having a safe space to go and a community that I felt like welcomed and a part of. Just going to a yoga class, like you're around a nice group of people and everyone's there to support themselves and to support each other. So I think it was that, just really seeing the change in my own mentality over the duration of the time that I started practicing.
It's awesome. When it comes to kind of your journey of actually becoming a teacher, when did you just decide I'm gonna go through the teacher training process?
So it was sort of, it was a big switch, because before I was a yoga teacher, I literally just worked at Tesco for 10 years.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I got a job at Tesco when I was 16, straight out of high school, started working that summer. And I said when I started, I'd only stay there for 1 year. And then 10 years later, I was still there.
Not that there's anything wrong with working
No,
at Tesco.
absolutely. But as a career, it wasn't where I saw myself for the future. So that had been a really great job just to sustain me while I was training as a dancer. It allowed me to travel. I got to go to lots of places during that time. But when I recognised that it was something that wasn't going to serve me in the long run, I randomly just saw a job advertisement for a receptionist in a new yoga studio that was opening. And I just thought, sure, like, let's go and do that. You know, it's not too far away from customer service, which is what I was already doing at Tesco. So I went to do that, and I'd been practicing yoga at that point for a little bit myself anyway, just as a student. So I was just excited because I was like, oh, I get to work here and now I get free classes. So that was sort of the main perk. But then once I was around the other yoga teachers who were coming in to take classes, once I was meeting and chatting with the community, I realised what sort of a nice bubble this world was, and hearing other teachers' experiences and chatting to students about why they practiced, it just like really started to resonate with me. And then I started to get that little idea of, oh, maybe becoming a yoga teacher is like my path that will enable me to share my journey and my troubles with mental health and how that practice helped me, and then I can share that with others so it can help them. So I looked at my teacher training options and then decided to go and do it in Rishikesh in India.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing.
It was a super beautiful place, and if you've never been to India, I definitely recommend. It is so worthwhile. Such a different culture and an incredible place, and just being immersed in that experience, they really live the practice of yoga. Like, to them, it's not just a physical practice, it's really their lifestyle, which is, I think, the most valuable thing that I brought back with me from the training.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. And I think what you said about the community vibe as well with yoga, I think that's something that I've really noticed since I've started practicing, is that it's just, everyone's just generally just so nice, and it's not competitive. Everyone wants to just help each other out, and everyone's doing it for their own good well-being, which is great.
Yeah. I think I've made like so many, like, obviously you have different students coming into your classes, and it's so nice to just meet people and hear their stories, and you end up becoming friends, and it's just really nice that you've bonded over this sort of shared experience of a practice. And obviously everyone's reason for coming to the practice is different. Some people are just there for the physical benefits of moving their body, which is absolutely great, and some people are there because, you know, they want to make a change in their life and they're searching for a deeper connection again with themselves.
Yeah, I think, I have noticed that, like, there's two aspects to it. Is there's the fitness side and then the spiritual side of things. I think for me, I think fitness does help for my well-being, but the spiritual side of it, I think, has definitely helped me a lot, especially with my mental health and breathing. You know, I think I've learned so much about breathing since starting yoga. And
I think it all goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
all these mindfulness practices, like not one is better than the other. I think it's like a culmination of all of them together, and then that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I said this in my introduction, that I don't think it's ever a one solution tool or anything like that. I think it's all a big recipe where you throw loads of different things into the mix, and that's how you deal with kind of stuff when it comes to your mental health.
Yeah. I think it's important to remember as well that it's a journey that never stops too. I mean, you've probably found this yourself, like you've overcome so much to get to where you are now, but you probably still have to face those struggles sometimes because things will come back up and you just get better at dealing with them. But also there is still those moments where you find yourself back in that headspace, but then you have more tools now that you can tap into that help you come out of it quicker so you don't stay in it for as long.
Yeah, I know like a lot of people will be listening to this podcast and they're really familiar with yoga, but I'm sure there's plenty of people that won't be. What would you say to someone that is maybe thinking about joining a yoga class but's a little bit anxious?
I think it's a common thing. Obviously, we sort of have this vision in our heads of all the postures that maybe we see on Instagram and social media, and that is obviously just one part of the practice. But anyone who's new to yoga, I always remind them to not get caught up in the physical postures because there's so many other elements of the practice which are really the most important part. So just by connecting to your breath, if you just sat down for the whole hour and you stayed mindful with your breathing and remained present in the space, like that is the point of your class. So whether you can achieve a headstand or not, like it really doesn't matter. And just reminding yourself not to compare yourself to other people either. Everyone in the class is there for their own reason, all different abilities, and one posture isn't better than another either. So if you need to take a child's pose but someone else is doing a crazy inversion, like there is no better posture than another. So I think I would really just remind someone to know why you're coming to the class and what you need from it, and not to get caught up in when the mind starts to take over and start comparing yourself and start to feeling nervous and things like that. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally does, and I think that's really reassuring. And I think even me, that's 8 months into this journey, I think it's that's something I need to remind myself quite a lot as well. So I guess moving on to the outdoors.
Yes.
I think this is where me and you talk quite a lot on Instagram outside of yoga.
Mainly because I wanted to scout out your dip spots.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you seem
totally.
to know loads of good spots.
Yeah, I absolutely love a dip, and I notice on your Instagram you do too, and you like a brew in the mornings and whatnot.
Of course.
Yeah, totally. Who doesn't? And just embracing nature. I guess has that always been you, the outdoors, or is it only been recently you've been getting into the outdoors?
Yeah, I was absolutely not an outdoorsy person at all. I obviously, when I was training as a dancer, I was always inside. I was in the yoga studio. So like when everyone else was off and out, I was inside training. And I didn't really start to get outdoorsy until I started traveling.
Okay.
So when I was like early 20s, when I'd had this big transitional point in my life where I didn't know what I was doing anymore, I started just booking plane tickets instead.
That sounds a bit dangerous, but yeah.
Yeah, but great life experiences. So I started just going New Zealand, Bali, just different places like that. But when I went to New Zealand, I mean, New Zealand landscapes, stunning, mountains, lakes.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, absolutely. Like all that amazing stuff. I went to New Zealand without a pair of walking boots. I was climbing mountains in New Zealand in a pair of Doc Martens.
Really? That's not...
Genuinely.
New Zealand just sounds absolutely Amazing. Did that just spur you on to kind
Yeah.
of just being outdoors?
Yeah, so once I'd sort of travelled a bit, and obviously when you're away, you make more effort to go and see and do stuff. But then when I came home, I realised there was so much here that I hadn't seen and done. So, like, suddenly for my birthdays, instead of wanting to go out on a night out, I was saying, can we go up Snowdon? You know, can we go and do a big walk or a hike or something? So, and just when you start getting out and doing it, and you just realize how insanely beautiful the world is,
Yeah, totally.
and all of the stuff that we have right on our doorstep.
So is there anything else that really helps you with your mental health?
So I've sort of cultivated like a few grounding practices that I've found have really helped me, and this is things like going for a dip in nature, sitting down with my tarot cards and just sort of having that time in a self ceremony almost. And it's just that time where you can just connect back to yourself, however that may be. So obviously when you come to do a cold water dip, you're focusing in, aren't you? Because you're like, right, I have to control my breath.
Yeah.
I have to ease myself into this water and then not panic and freak out and get out, right?
Yeah, going to hypothermic shock.
Yeah. And then like when I'm sitting down with tarot cards, like obviously this is something that some people will see as like quite woo woo, and but again it's just for me like a chance to sit down with myself and to notice how I'm really feeling, like connect back to my sort of intuitive self.
Yeah.
I find that really beneficial. Drinking cacao, I think it's a great plant medicine.
Yeah, totally.
It connects you back to your heart space. You'd said you've been to a cacao ceremony yourself, so maybe you have a little experience, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, no, it's all been good with cacao. I've got cacao in the cupboard.
Oh, nice.
Can have a little ceremony after this.
Perfect. But I think it's just anything that can really become sort of like a ritual within your day, something that you enjoy, that you can come back to again and again. And it's something that connects you back to you and something that makes you happy.
So let's talk bucket lists.
Bucket lists.
What's
I love
next?
a bucket list. So number one and 2 on my bucket list have been the same for so long. So ultimate goal is to have a van.
Nice.
Like, you know, I sleep in my car, and that's just out of choice, by the way.
As do I.
Nice. Like, that's just like me stepping closer to the van dream, but without being able to afford a van. Like, just make do with what you've got. And then Australia. Australia is top.
Which, to be fair, is on my list.
Is it?
So, yeah.
Maybe we'll meet over there one day.
Totally. And also, I think you mentioned that you're going to Guatemala.
Yes, so that is what I'm doing next. So it's happened super quickly and I leave in a couple of weeks. I'm going out there for some further studying, learning, training, working, helping out in a yoga retreat centre. So I'm super excited about it, but it's a big leap into the unknown.
Sounds so exciting, though.
Yeah, it should be cool.
Yeah, so thanks for coming on, Donna.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So how do people hear about what you've got going on and events where you're teaching?
Okay, so probably the easiest way to find me is through Instagram. My tag is @_Donna Edwards. That's where I tend to post my class schedules and what I'm up to.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to say a big thank you for tuning in to this podcast. Please feel free to like, share, subscribe, and also feel free to send me any ideas that you may have for future podcasts. I'll catch you all soon. Bye.